he's gaslighting her into making out with him,
negging his teacher, which he probably heard on the Joe Rogan podcast and other Sigma male podcasts.
Literally. And she falls for it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Oh my god.
And they're like, on the pier in public. And granted, it's nighttime, but oh, I shouldn't have done that. Goodbye. And then Pacey's like, yeah.
He's so happy.
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
Hi, Karina.
Hi, Zax.
Well, unfortunately, we're all gathered here today.
We're back to grooming.
Yeah, I decided to rewatch Dawson's Creek. I've seen it on Netflix a long time. I watched it in syndication when I was a teenager, and I was like, I remember thinking it was fine. And
now that you're a grown person.
Yeah, so like technically it doesn't really count for my generation, but it is a millennial show. So,
I'm the Gen Z. I've never seen this show.
Yeah. So, technically, when it was, like, my generation was still too young for Dawson's Creek, but I'll still lump it in there.
Yeah.
So, I remember thinking it was fine, and I've said a lot of garbage about Riverdale. And I've said a lot of trash about Pretty Little Liars, which actually was my generation, so I guess that's fine. But I don't know. I think Dawson's Creek might actually be the worst. I think
you know what? I think Dawson's Creek set the bar for what teen drama should be in TV shows, and that bar is in hell.
Yeah, so they've been slowly raising it. So now somehow Riverdale seems like it feels really lukewarm to me in comparison to Dawson.
You think Riverdale is lukewarm?
Honestly, compared to this show, yes, because at least
it's been sitting in the fridge for 2 weeks.
I think what I'll say about Riverdale is at least it has like that comic book aesthetic, so there's much more room for suspending my disbelief. But with Dawson's Creek, they play everything real straight. Even when there's meta about it, they're still purporting themselves to be at this higher level than they are, than they're worthy of.
Show.
Yeah, okay. So, like we said, we're talking about grooming, and the shows I mentioned, Riverdale and Pretty Little Liars, all think it's great to explore a teacher grooming a student, and we're supposed to root for them. That's like a running fantasy that 40-year-old writers still want to explore to this
Spoiler
day.
alert, it's not good. So,
and I'll say, okay, so like, here's the bar. With Pretty Little Liars, Ezra, at least, I don't know, at least he was very concerned about it getting out from what I remember. He was pretty discreet, like he like would not talk to her in class, like basically at all. And then, from what I remember of Riverdale, she broke up
arrested.
Yes, I think
so. It's fine.
Yeah, and
it's
she
not fine, but like, you know.
Does she get arrested? I thought she goes on the lam and they all help her escape.
I feel like she did get it. I have this visual. I never watched Riverdale, but I remember seeing like something on Twitter of like her getting into a police car.
Yeah, I think she was wanted, but if someone watches Riverdale, confirm this, because I remember...
Yeah, please let us know.
Here's what I remember, and I could be way off, it's been a minute, but I remember Archie talking to Betty and Veronica, they were like, Archie, you're sleeping with your teacher, that's so weird of you. And then he's like, look, weird. She doesn't deserve to go to jail, you gotta help her escape. Yes, she does. And then they're like,
she sure does.
Alright. And then...
Oh my god.
And I don't think anybody finds... I think she was actually, like, a wanted suspect in, like, the overarching murder or something. And then Luke Perry...
That show's really hard to follow anyways. So.
Yeah, okay. Forget that. I don't want to confuse any listeners.
We will talk about Riverdale maybe another day.
Maybe.
Maybe we won't, because I remember Mike's Mike tried to make, like, a plot map of everything, and that poor baby... was really struggling.
Yeah, but I'll hopefully remember to put in the corner the last Riverdale video we did, where we talked about them, the girls forming like an S&M ring for this guy. Like, it was wild. It was such a weird solution to this problem. They also, almost killed him.
When they were like, D&D is Satan worship. Okay. Remember when that happened, everyone? I do. It's very upsetting.
Alright, so Dawson's Creek. This is the pilot episode. And this is
what they brought to the studio.
They're setting the groundwork for the entire show. And so much of this show, for the whole first season. And this arc expands like 6 episodes, and then they bring it back into the
second season.
Yeah, they bring some closure to it, and it kind of keeps being addressed later, because this ruins Pacey's reputation even more, because even once it all blows over and it's done, people are still like spreading rumors about him sleeping with his teacher. So it has lasting consequences for him.
Also, okay, very quick, I need to get it off my chest, because if I don't, then I'm going to be really mean to Pacey throughout this whole video, and that's not why we're here. This may be just because I have only seen him for the first season a little bit, and like one 30-minute second. I did not like Pacey. Something about him just really made me mad. Like, it awoke a rage in me that I had not felt in a long time. He just gives me, like, the same energy as people I knew when I was in college. This is primarily, like, young men that I knew who were like, oh, I'm so much smarter than you. Oh, I'm so smug and I think I'm so eloquent and cool. And it just really made me mad. That being said, I do empathize with his situation, and Pacey did not deserve to be exploited and mistreated the way that he was in this collection of episodes, nor does he deserve the the abuse he gets from his family and literally everybody else in the show. But yeah. I hate his personality. Maybe he gets better, but I don't know.
Yeah, and so that's where we kind of had a disagreement. But then again, I have been watching the whole show, and even when I watched it when I was a teenager, I was always like, this should have been Pacey's Creek. So I'm a bit of Team Pacey, if anyone cared about that. And I was really hurt when Karina didn't like him. It was actually a true test of our friendship, and we're still only kind of friends now because of that.
Listen, I'm willing to give him a second chance.
Okay.
But just season 1, Pacey.
I was actually watching...
It was not the vibe.
As of right now, I'm still on season 2, and I just got to an episode where he was actually part of a really nice conversation about, like, consent with his girlfriend and, like, if they were ready to do that. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, like, okay, real life, I don't think teenagers talk like this at all, but that's kind of the whole gig of Dawson's Creek.
I think part of why I didn't like Pacey was because the way he was written was, like, an adult trying to write what they thought a teenager who was trying to be cool. So it was very, like, over the top, and I did not appreciate it. But, you know, I've only seen maybe like 15 minutes total of Pacey.
So that goes into the next thing that I want you guys to be aware of before we get into the play-by-play of how this goes down. Each episode is 45 minutes. Now, of those 45 minutes, they're just gonna sprinkle in like 10 minutes throughout each episode exploring this grooming plot. What's gonna take up the other 35 minutes of the show?
Is Dawson's stupid life.
It's so petty. Like, I get it, like coming of age and all that, but it's like, man, there's this beautiful girl next door. She's perfect. I gotta be with her. My best friend Joey, who climbs through my window every night, is like being weird lately because of this other girl that I'm now obsessed with.
Oh, and my wonder why.
My parents are really always getting intimate together. It's kind of cringe.
Oh no, my mom's cheating on my dad.
Yeah. So, and
no, my dad kicked my mom out during a hurricane.
Yeah. Okay, but again, it's just like such petty stuff. So it's just like, oh my gosh, am I going to take Joey or Jen to the dance? And then, Pacey, you're a child. I'm an adult woman. We can't be together. I'm ready to make that choice. Ow.
Like,
They get real into it. Like,
oh
okay,
my
so
God, yeah.
one thing with Dawson's Creek is it's slightly more egregious than Riverdale in like the casting of adults as children. Because when
Dawson,
this show,
by the time it gets to season 2, does not bother shaving. You're like, I can see your 5 o'clock shadow. And you're supposed to be 16, right?
Oh,
How old
yeah.
were you when we filmed this?
so in the first season, they are supposed to be 15, going on 35.
Yeah.
Like,
These are grown men.
it's really funny too, especially when you see James Vanderbeek by the guy who plays his dad, who I do not remember his name, but he was apparently the Flash in like the 80s or something on TV. So if you're like a diehard DC fan, I knew that sort of for you. And then
We love superheroes.
I think he actually got like a cameo appearance on the new Flash show because
nice.
of that. I think
That's
so.
pretty
I
neat.
feel like I remember. I watched a few episodes. I feel like that happened. Well, Rogue will tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, so
Sax, you were wrong.
just like a comment, you were wrong.
Yeah.
I would
Incorrect.
like. I would enjoy that engagement, even so. Okay, so when they're standing next to each other, it's like, okay, if you two were at a bar, I'd be like, oh wow, that's like a nice,
Look at these
handsome
two
couple.
friends. History would say they were very good friends.
Yeah. Let's just get into this. It's the pilot episode, and these are the 10 minutes this episode that they're going to devote to this grooming. Meanwhile, everything else is so inconsequential. Okay, so
Stupid.
Dawson and Pacey are both 15 years old. They're about to start their first year of high school, and this is one of those ones where middle school ends in 9th grade, so high school starts at 10th grade. It's one of those deals.
Is that like always the thing in the US?
No, I think it used to be, and they started shifting it. So now I heard from like a sport mom once that they changed it so that you could be younger and in football longer.
Oh.
That's what I heard, is why they started doing 9th to 12th grade. But I think I wish that my school would have been 10th to 12th instead of 9th to 12th, because a lot of those seniors were like so much older looking than me at 14. So seemed like a weird mashup of human beings.
Of these like little babies and then these grown people.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind them bringing it back. And I think some schools, I think it just depends on like your county or district or whatever they think. But I'm no expert in that.
Yeah.
So
we're not an education. We work with children, but we are not educators.
So okay. So they're supposed to be 15 years old. And they work at like a Blockbuster. It's very cute. It's a hole in the wall, supports small businesses, I guess.
Throwback.
I think for the whole time they work there, we never see their boss. We've seen the boss's daughter. Have not seen the actual boss. I do not know who pays these two boys. So they're there, and this woman, this beautiful older woman in like a semi-sheer lace dress walks in. And
Because it's the 90s.
it's the 90s. And
And Calvin Klein said it was okay.
yes. And she comes in, Pacey's jaw drops all the way to the floor. His eyes are popping out. He has never seen a stunner like this woman before. And she is very pretty, so it's like understandable. But it also makes it very obvious that he's like, if you're still like going awooga for like a pretty
Whoa,
lady,
is that a lady?
I think you're too young to be dating. At
Yeah.
least anyone who's not your age.
Yeah, especially someone who's not your age.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if you're 15.
Yeah, so Pacey's really obnoxious, and his age is really going to show with how he handles basically everything that happens.
Any situation.
So she comes in, and and he's like nervously like giving her the thing so she can apply for a membership card or whatever. And then she's like, okay, so do you have The Graduate? And he's like, the Graduate? You mean the
Oh,
movie?
you mean that movie?
And she's like, the one where the older woman seduces the younger man? Yes, that movie. And he's like, oh my god. Like, if he was writing something...
Oh, it's a sign.
If he was writing something down with a pencil, he would have broken it in half. That's how... I am not exaggerating when I say how awooga he was for this lady. So
He was so horny in the video store for this
he was
lady.
about to like jump over the counter.
He was just frothing at the mouth.
I will say there's like I know it's, I don't mean it. Okay, I don't know how to say this. I hope it's not offensive because I don't mean it in that way. But like, I think the writers unintentionally added a really heavy mommy dom element to this relationship.
They really
so. There's
did.
nothing wrong with that. Like with two consenting adults, obviously. But like, it's weird that he's like a kid. We're gonna find out he has family problems later on. And
this woman comes into the Blockbuster and he's like, Mommy, sorry. Mommy, sorry.
yeah, it's really like immediately groom senses are tingling. So I don't think that word is right. But okay, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
that was,
She's like, I'm gonna go for it.
yeah, so he takes that
In
encounter.
the video store.
Yeah, so he takes that encounter as the green light. She was flirting with me. This is going to be a thing.
This is a sign from God.
And he goes to school the next day, and it turns out that beautiful knockout of a woman, as he will call her several times throughout this arc, is his English teacher. Now,
Oh, no.
here's my issue with this. Okay, so you're new in town, and it's a very...
I'm homeless. I'm new in town. I have a...
I did not invite John Mulaney to this podcast.
Hi. It's me, John Mulaney.
You just reminded me...
I'm here on Kind of Friends.
You just reminded me of something that my sibling does, which I don't hope it doesn't embarrass them to hear me talk about this. But okay,
We talked about them in the school recital. I think it's okay.
Yeah, this is a cuter story, I think. So, they dyed their hair recently, very cute, and they came into the house one day. They barged in. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're like Gen Z Kramer." So sometimes they'll just do this random Michael Richards impression.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's so cute.
We love it.
Anyway,
We love that.
so I like,
Shout out.
yeah. Maybe we'll get Gen Z Michael Richards to the show one day.
Maybe we'll get actual Michael.
The real one.
Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh, Jamie getting cast to play Kramer in the biopic.
Do you think he has a cameo?
Yeah, for sure.
I think we could find it.
Yeah, well,
It's gonna be super expensive.
it's gonna be the most viral TikTok series ever. Gen Z Kramer Adventures.
Oh boy.
Okay, anyway, so you're new in town and you're going to be a high school teacher, and this is a very small town with one school. Why wouldn't you assume these... Because, like, this is the thing, too. They refer to them this season as being very scrawny and lanky, so even though they look like handsome 20-year-old men, we are supposed to be seeing awkward 15-year-old people. So it's very...
Okay, I'm describing them as scrawny and lanky is like describing the both of us as Amazonian tall women.
Yeah.
It's factually incorrect.
The other thing I will say though,
It's a lie,
they kind of imply that they had like that whole like they grew up over the summer kind of trope thing going on a little bit, but then they also like they do that weird like Evan Hansen scrunching when you're walking kind of thing too.
Oh god. Oh, we need to talk about Evan Hansen.
I want to watch it. Honestly, the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, I think
Naruto runs.
I saw that. I've seen that a lot. I think it's great. I think more people should Naruto run away from their problems.
Yeah, but not when they're like 29 years old and pretending to be in high school.
Hello, fellow teens. Dab dab Fortnite, and then you Naruto
Dab dab
run
Fortnite.
away.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you pretend that the guy who unalived himself, wrote you a nice letter beforehand, and then lied to his family.
You know what's funny? That's
such a horrible plot line.
Oh, okay. You know what I was thinking about? Oh my gosh. Okay, well this is gonna be just called a deep dish, I guess. It became one. I would like
so much for staying on track.
We were complimenting ourselves just a moment ago about this. Okay, well, I had originally heard covers of the song If I Could Tell Her, and it was a girl singing it. But like they didn't change they changed the pronouns or whatever, so If I Could Tell Him, like, so they did a girl version or whatever. And I was just listening to it, and this cover artist doesn't usually change pronouns or anything, just sings the song. So I assumed that was the song. And I was thinking that Evan was, like, gay and was talking about Connor, and not, like, I didn't realize what the plot was. I thought it was kind of like a Cyrano thing, like, we're talking about this guy who likes you, but really I like you kind of a thing. I also thought it was...
We thought this was going to be falsettos, but high school and no AIDS.
And I thought it was gay, also, was the main thing. And I was very surprised that it wasn't, but also I guess it's a little homophobic, I'm seeing around town.
Maybe. I think we need to do a musical episode.
Yeah, we'll write...
Or a musical series.
Yeah, we'll connect with people and we'll make an album, a concept album that's just a deep
We still
dish.
have to make that punk song.
Yeah. Okay.
Back on track.
Yeah. Small detour. So, immediately Pacey's, like, flirting with his teacher, and she's like, okay, like, whatever. She's, like, definitely is flirting back with him. But
then it's like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. Stop.
Yeah, and so he ends up saying, like, oh, there's, like, this other movie that I guess is also about an older woman, younger man, Summer 32. I think that's what the context is telling me that movie's about. And, so then he says, I can, like, reserve it for you, maybe even, like, bring it over to your place. And she's like, actually, I'm going to the Rialto to see one of those new movies. And he's like, oh.
She specifically says, I'm going to see the new movie.
The new movie, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. And he takes that as an invitation to go see her. So he convinces Dawson to go, and then that leads to their own, like, A and B plot. So they're treating this...
Also, sorry to jump back on the Pacey slander train. I promise I'll get off soon. Pacey's so stupid.
He's really...
Like, he's being groomed. Yes, that's awful. But, like, him thinking that the teacher being like, I'm going to a movie this weekend is... He takes that as, I guess I'm going to a movie this weekend because she asked me to go. No. Also, okay, I think... I said something like this in, like, a previous episode. It was coincidentally in the Shane Dawson video we just did, about, like, lack of shame for a lot of folks online.
Yeah.
So, picture this. So, you're working at the Blockbuster. Let's pretend it's 2004. You're working at the Blockbuster, and this hot, sexy person comes in, and they're like, oh, can I pick up this movie? And you're like, oh yeah, sure. And then you go to school the next day, and they're your teacher. I'm not going to want to talk to them ever again, because that's embarrassing. But Pacey, like, spits into his hand and pushes his hair back. It's like, well, hello. What are you doing, Pacey? She was trying to get a free membership. She wasn't trying to start a relationship, you silly goose.
Oh. It's like he's such a...
She was trying to scam you.
No, she loves me. Okay, so he shows up.
Love? No, it's a scam.
Oh yeah, but yeah, so he brings Dawson and Joey and Jen along, and then they have, like, the real plot. I want you to understand they are using this teacher grooming a child as a, like, MacGuffin to move the plot along.
Like, if we thought it was bad that, like, Arya and Ezra's thing was just, like, a snippet of the plot of Pretty Little Liars, this has a complete backseat to the main show.
Like, it's just, like, literally it's like a PSA where it's like, well, while this was happening, what you didn't see in the background was this kid being groomed.
Like, Dawson's like, oh, I don't know which girl I want to take to the dance. Meanwhile, Pacey's being groomed by his teacher.
Like, literally, it's wild. So,
how is that the meanwhile?
Yeah, it's very odd. Which is why it should be Pacey's Creek. But then he'd get the attention he deserves. But, okay. So then he goes to sit with her. And she's like, oh, Pacey, no. And then this other teacher from the school shows up. And he's like, is this kid bothering you? And he's like, no. I'm like, he basically was like, I'm on a date with her. What are you doing here, bucko? And then Samara's like, I was just renting a movie. Please go away.
Leave me alone, Pacey. And he's like, and then, okay, so this is kind of mean. It's not kind of mean. It is mean of him. They go out, like, to the pier where they will meet each other a number of times. Mm-hmm. And she's like, can you leave me alone? And he's like, you know what? I think you were exhilarated. I don't think I said that word correctly. I think you were excited because I gave you attention in the video store because you're pushing 40 and you're going to be ugly soon. I'm like paraphrasing very loosely. Yeah, he goes on for 3 minutes. He's gaslighting her into making
He's
out
negging
with him,
his teacher, which he probably heard on the Joe Rogan podcast and other Sigma male podcasts.
Literally. And she falls for it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Oh my god.
And they're like, on the pier in public. And granted, it's nighttime, but oh, I shouldn't have done that. Goodbye. And then Pacey's like, yeah.
He's so happy. He's so pleased with how this all turned out. And then the next morning he goes to her class and she's like, okay, well, you're not in this class, so we can talk later. Excuse me. Students are
flirting with her in front of his classmate.
No, students are filing in and my guy leans in and he says, your tongue was in my mouth. We need to discuss this, lady.
Meanwhile, the kids sitting in the front row are like, hey, teach, the homework was due today, right? Hey, Pacey. What's up?
And then she's just like, please, not here.
Like, Pacey, get out of my classroom.
And then he's like, you're not being
fair.
He says, you're not being fair. And he starts storming out. And I'm like, wait, what? You can't.
Pacey, you were in school.
I mean,
do you have 4 brain cells?
Like, that's the thing.
Why did you think this was okay?
Like, okay, I understand. There's not being mature, but then there's also, like, you understand.
Being a baby.
Because when he necks her and kisses her, they both make, like, funny quips about how, like, because she's like, yeah, not to mention the court could get involved. And she says it in a,
and then, what do you know, the court gets involved later.
Yeah. So, okay. So then it's his class, and then she uses a lesson plan to break up with him. So they're talking about Wuthering Heights, and the teacher asks, okay, so why do we think this chick pushed this guy away? And then this girl raises her hand, and she's like, oh, because, she was just ruining a good thing for herself, and she was really in love. And then she's like, yeah, that's what people say, but actually this book sucks because they shouldn't have been together in the first place. The guy, he had a lot to learn about life. Meanwhile, Pacey's sitting there like, I know what you're talking about.
He's literally pouting in class, arms crossed like, Mrr.
And then, he didn't need to get involved with this wet rag of a mess of a woman. Like me.
This woman pushing 40 who's gonna wither away within the next 48 hours.
And then everybody else is like...
this rotted corpse in front of me.
And everyone else is just like, oh, okay. But really...
Alright, that's an interesting interpretation. I guess I have to throw out my entire annotated bibliography that I started last night.
Yeah.
Because I have to change topics.
I know. Then they're just like, wait, is this gonna be on the test?
Yeah, so they're like, should I update my notes?
And then, so he's like, okay, I know what you're doing. Then he ends up showing up at the school dance. And she's chaperoning.
Pineapple shirt. Did a shirt have pineapples on it? It was an Under the Sea theme, of course.
Yeah. And
classic go-to.
He goes up to her and he's like, would you dance with me? And she's like, Pacey, we're not going to dance together in front of...
I'm chaperoning the dance.
I'm at work, sir. And he's like...
I'm gonna put the fault on the writers for thinking that this was cool, fun, and sexy, because this makes Pacey look like an absolute moron.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pretend we're back in high school again. Ugh, awful. But, there's the history teacher, because it's always the history teacher, is hot, fun, and sexy. And you're like, wow, I sure do like them, but I am 15 and he's like 45. Even if you like just had like an innocent crush on them, you're still not gonna ask them to dance.
Yeah.
That's something that your friends would be like, hee, go ask Mr. whatever to go dance. It'd be so funny. And you're like, oh my god, guys, that's so cringe. Stop.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that seriously. And the writers were like, this is how
Well,
15-year-olds behave.
to be fair, though, as far, like, the thing is, the difference with the example you gave is that you have, or that person, that
you have friends.
Well, yes, you have friends who care about your safety, but, and are just involved in their own lives that they don't notice you being groomed.
Yeah. Well, in this scenario, we're not being groomed because this teacher is happily married and has 2 children.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, though. But Pacey's actions make a little more sense considering they made out the other day. Which teachers don't typically do if they don't want to date their students. And
if you're a teacher and you want to date your students, you need to go to jail.
Yeah. Do not pass go. Yeah. Do not collect $200. Yeah. Just go to jail. Just
get out of here.
Yeah, scram.
Get out of here, you dumb mutt. Can't you see nobody wants you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so then he's like mad that she won't dance with him. And then later he goes to the same dock and she's there looking wistfully out the window. And then
hair blowing in the wind.
And then he goes up to her and he's like, this feels really familiar. And she's like, yeah, but this time we're going to end it the right way. But then he says, but I'm not good with girls, and you're like the first girl who's ever been interested in me. And she's like, trust me, Pacey.
She says, that's a grown woman.
This is a grown woman. And she's like, trust me, Pacey, that'll change. And then she makes out with him again. When I was like, okay, wait, what was the better?
How spineless can you be?
What? And then, okay, so now let's go in. So now they're in basically a relationship. They are dating now. And I want to make it clear to you people how unready to navigate what an adult relationship entails Pacey is. They are going to have 2 petty fights before they actually have sex for the first time. First petty fight is he sees her talking to Mr. Gold and he's really jealous, and she's like, he tells her, okay, it's going to be one of us, him or me. And then
when she's talking to a colleague.
Yeah. She gets so jealous. And he gets so jealous. And he, like, grabs her hand at one point when she's going up the stairs. And she's like, what do you want from me? You're a child.
You lunatic.
And he's like, I want you. I want you. And I was like, you could really add a comma mommy to the end of that sentence.
Literally. I wanted a juice box.
Not Mr. Gold.
Why did he get one?
So then, but fortunately...
Because you just brush your teeth, Pacey. Go lie down for a nap.
Fortunately, Mr. Gold is attracted to men, so he's not a threat.
He's a little fruity.
Which is the first hint of the blatant homophobia and transphobia of this show that aged like milk. Oh Yay. My god, it's literally...
I love when shows do that.
I feel
like, we can't be funny, so let's just, like, mock
marginalized
groups.
I think part of the series is we're going to have to talk about that alone, because there are a lot of examples, surprisingly, that just, it's really awful. Not like it. Okay, so back to this. The second fight they have is... she's trying to get him motivated. So she basically implies pretty blatantly that if he takes this studying seriously, she'll give him a sexual favor. And...
gross.
Yeah. And he's at first like, wait, what? No, you're... really? And she's like, yeah, for sure. Then he takes it seriously because he is a very, very horny teenage boy. Good God.
I will give you 1 boob if you answer 10 multiple choice questions.
Yeah. And he does the assignment right. He does everything she asks. And then she's like, okay, well, the reward is your education. Go home. And he's like, but no, that's not what you promised. And then...
Milky, now.
And then like finally she decides to like call his bluff, so she goes and closes the blinds and she's like, all right, fine, my first time should be on our desk with you, shouldn't it? And then she's like,
take it out. And he's like, blah, blah, blah.
And then he's like, I know what you're doing, but like I see you, I'm gonna go through with this. Which I'm like, Pacey, you're not ready to have sex with this grown woman. You're getting really...
Pacey, go home, Pacey.
I understand that you want to feel like a man, and she's very pretty, but, like, look at how you're trembling. You are not ready for this. And then she's like, what is this, your first time? And then he stops, and he's like, you know that it is. And he looks so...
And he's pouting.
He's like... But he's like, looks hurt, because it's like... weird. I don't know. Like, he thought because she was an adult, he could trust her not to hurt his feelings. It was very sad. And then she's like, okay, go home. This is wrong. And then he's like, wait, just because it's not the right time tonight doesn't mean it won't be later. I'm a big fan of doing the wrong thing because it feels right sometimes. I'm like, you're an idiot. You're
a stupid 15-year-old. Go home.
Your opinion doesn't matter. Everyone got together and decided you're too dumb to have a say in this, okay? The whole world decided that your opinion on this here doesn't matter, Pacey.
Listen, Pacey, I get it. You want to touch that boob. But that boob is 40 years old. You are 15. Go home and go online and look at boobs there. Please, for the love of God. I promise you are going to regret this when you are older.
And then... yeah, it's wild. Okay, so then somehow... he wears her down again because the next time we're going to see them, they're having sex outside in some park thing. It looks kind of like that greenhouse thing from the kissing booth where they had their first kiss. It's kind of like that sort of deal. And
except it's not pouring rain.
Thing is, Dawson's filming a movie because he's aspiring to
Dawson.
Be a filmmaker. He worships Steven Spielberg. And I remembered that Steven Spielberg was his favorite. But I'm like, does Steven Spielberg, like, have a hand in this show? Because it's insane how obsessed with Steven Spielberg he is. He's like, he actively preaches to people about how, like, I'm not kidding, he compares his feelings to a religion, and he says that any problem you have, there's a Steven Spielberg movie that will help you through it.
I can't. You know what? All of the film bros are gonna absolutely crucify me. I can't think of a single Spielberg movie off the top of my head.
E.T., Indiana Jones.
Oh. Okay, well, like, Indiana Jones is
Jurassic Park.
The first one, because then it just kind of goes downhill after that.
Jurassic Park. Ready Player One.
The classics.
Dawson didn't know about that one yet, though, so it's okay. We'll give him a pass. But actually, I still like Steven Spielberg a lot. So, anyway. Okay, so Dawson's filming a movie, but they hear someone coming, because I guess they're not supposed to be there, so they thought it was like park security or whatever, so they run out really quick, but the camera's still rolling. So Dawson accidentally gets a porn of his teacher and best friend.
Oh no.
On his dailies. And then, this is a scene I didn't show you just because I was trying to conserve time. But when Pacey finds out about this tape, he goes to Dawson and he demands to see the tape. And Dawson's like, yeah, sure, I'll get it for you. But he doesn't even really, he just thinks he's horny for the teacher. No one thinks that it's Pacey yet because you couldn't really see the guy in the picture, just her. And so then he confesses that they've been doing it. And then Dawson's like, oh my God, what? He's horrified at this news. Like, it's not...
As he should be.
Which I was like, that's pretty good. Like, he's not like, oh man, score.
Oh, nice one, bro.
But then, at the end, like, Pacey's talking about, like, no, I'm just really freaked out because of that tape got out. It would, like, ruin my life, ruin her life. I don't know. And he's, like, very stressed about this. Like,
so, Pacey, you understand that what happened to you was wrong, correct?
Well, I guess he doesn't want her to get in trouble, basically, is where he's coming at the story. Mm-hmm. He's trying to protect her, which is, like, what happens when you're being groomed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So... that's a little icky. And then he also says like, okay, from what you saw on the tape, did I look like I did okay? And then Dawson was like,
God.
yeah, I think so. And he's like, okay. And he's just so uncertain. And like, okay, I know that I just love Pacey, but I really was like, you poor dumb little idiot.
Like, oh my god.
It's like,
hey, do I look okay in these child sexual abuse images?
yeah, like, did I look like I knew what I was doing? He was like, it was such an insecure, his voice trembles a little bit. He's
God.
like shaking a lot through this whole conversation. It's really...
Who wrote this? Who wrote this and thought this was okay?
I don't know. It's wild. Like, it's so weird too because like I don't think that they really realized how abused Pacey is. So then the next thing that happens is actually like I think things basically go good for them, but he starts feeling like she doesn't actually like him anymore because he goes to hold her hand and they're in a public place. But then later, she basically flips that on him and makes him feel bad because she's like, oh, you mean in a public place where parents, teachers, and other students could have seen us? I didn't hold your hand? And then he's like...
Weird.
And then he's like, oh gosh, I'm being such an idiot about this. And then I'm thinking like, yeah, because you don't know anything.
Yeah, because you're stupid.
You're a little baby.
You're 15. And we're all stupid when we're 15.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they really do a good job of showing just, like, he is not ready.
How dumb he is.
Which I think, it's unfortunate that people didn't, like, really care about this plot that much. Because I feel like, you know, SNL, as, like, recently as, like, 4 years ago, did a sketch where the whole joke was, it was a female teacher being tried in court, and everyone was just like, but this kid is awesome because he got to sleep with that hot teacher. But this is actually, like, if you pay attention to this arc and forget about the fluff surrounding it, this man, this boy, is being hurt and abused, and he is not ready for...
Like, the weird thing about this arc is that it's more self-aware than, like, Pretty Little Liars or Riverdale, because they're, like, they constantly make reference to the fact that this is wrong, and the teacher knows that it's wrong, and Pacey, to a degree, knows that it's wrong, but then they still do it. So it's like, okay, writers, you almost got it, but you're still making this, like, titillating. You're still like, ooh, like, this is scandalous. Like, no, you're depicting a crime, and you're like, yeah, this is a crime, but isn't this hot, fun, and sexy? Like, no!
Because that's the thing, too, because, like...
You almost had it!
Yeah, and it's really... Especially because, like, people don't really care about, like, male victims when it's, like, a teacher doing this kind of thing, which is... really, you know, devastating to, like, toxic masculinity and all that. But, like, showing this, it shows that, like, it doesn't even matter. Because lots of people, when they're young and they have sex, boys or girls, feel like they enjoyed the sex they had and the affection they got from this older person. But that doesn't mean that they weren't taken advantage of and abused. And it's not, it's going to lead to trauma. And so, like, just because it's like, oh, man... I would have had sex with her. It's like, well, you're an adult, sir. That's a kid. Yeah. That doesn't make it okay.
You're looking at this from an adult perspective of, yeah, that's a hot adult.
Yeah.
I'm an adult, so yeah, of course I'd sleep with them. But, like, this is a 15-year-old who's like, wow, that's a hot adult. I'm 15. That's wrong.
And it makes him feel mature. She also tells him several times, like, you're becoming a man. And... like, she's saying all, like, these classic, dangerous people things to say to him. But they're playing it like she's they try to play it off as though, like, how could she resist the charms of this idiot, obnoxious child?
This, like...
It's
so poorly handled.
Very, very poorly handled. So, okay.
Where do we go from
Okay, so then now we're going to the hurricane. So this episode has more grooming, but also shows how toxic Pacey's whole household is. And also some more homophobia, because obviously.
Why not?
So
just for flavor.
Pacey's older brother, Doug, is a police officer, and he's the perfect son. And he does a few ACAB-y things in this episode, but we'll get to that. Honestly, he does, actually, now that I think about it, he does a couple things. Well, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Anyway, so they're going around town helping people secure their houses for the hurricane coming up. And Doug just keeps telling Pacey that he's worthless. He's never going to amount to anything.
You're stupid,
he's a
Pacey.
waste
and Pacey's like, yeah, I know.
He's a waste of space. You disappoint our father every day you breathe. And he's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know.
But then...
Which, that's not nice.
That's
horrible. I'm sorry, Pacey.
That
sucks.
So that's how he gets talked to. And his comeback is which, this is a weird thing.
He's like, oh yeah? Well, you're a closeted gay.
Yeah, and he tells him, he even says, you gotta address that all this, these random outbursts of rage.
You gotta address the rainbow elephant in the room, bud.
Yeah, and
you're a little fruity.
He's like, yeah, that's the reason you have all this pent-up rage, that you just, have all these outbursts and stuff, because you're repressed and all that. And he's...
that's why you became a cop, because you're trying to overcompensate from how emasculated you're feeling because you're gay, unrightfully so. Mm-hmm. But you're like, yeah, I'm gonna become a cop so I can feel powerful and manly, because secretly I'm gay.
And the thing is too, though, it's at first, but they don't confirm until the very
last episode.
Yeah, literally the last episode of the show, they confirm, yes, Doug was gay. But so for all that time, it is this is why I'm torn. Okay, so it's not cool to make fun of someone's sexuality, but it's also not good to call someone worthless and dumb all the time. Mm-hmm. It genuinely,
these are very bad things to do to people.
Honestly, as the show goes on, it really it's not even it's a toxic family, but they love each other. I genuinely believe they hate Pacey and wish he was not born. If he just didn't come back home one day. Actually,
they wouldn't file a
missing
person
what?
report.
Actually, now that I just remembered, there was another episode where he told Dawson as much. He was looking for a place to live. He wanted to earn some extra cash. And Dawson was like, your dad's never going to let you do that. And then Pacey looks at him, frowning, deadpan. He just told me, let him know where to sign. And he could be an emancipated minor immediately.
Oh my god, Pacey.
So, he's got...
When does Pacey move out?
I don't remember. I believe he does, but he doesn't yet. He doesn't have enough money to. He can't afford to, so he's stuck there.
Why doesn't Dawson's family just let him stay there?
That's the thing too. I don't know. We only see Katie Holmes gets to sleep over. Never really Pacey. It's very
okay.
I guess it's...
So nobody likes Pacey is what I'm hearing.
That's the thing, too. Apparently Joey and Dawson are Pacey's best friends, but Katie Holmes always yells at him, and they argue and bicker all the time. And Dawson... Apparently, there are episodes where we hear about how off-screen Dawson's this amazing friend to Pacey, except now this is the time where he didn't come through in the same way that he had come through in the past. So we only see Dawson being a trash friend to Pacey. So
I have a genuine question.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe this will go down a rabbit hole. What are some redeeming qualities of Pacey?
Okay, so Pacey, the thing about Pacey is he is... One reason why I like him so much is he's really brash and obnoxious, but he really tries his best to do right by the people he cares about. Mm-hmm. So one example, he starts dating Hotch's wife, and her mother's mentally ill, having an episode, and he manages to calm her down. And then there's that. Later on, he's going to start dating Katie Holmes, and she's really into art, and she had started painting something, she was going to have an opportunity to paint a big mural, but the opportunity fell through, and she was really devastated about it, so he bought her a wall, for an alley, and he was like, you can paint this however you want, and then he stayed up all night with her painting over it with white paint.
Aww.
Let me see, other things he did. I remember, this is something he did in, earlier in the first season, too, actually. This was, in the middle of him having a crush on the teacher and everything. So Joey, Katie Holmes, was really upset about how things were going, like, between Dawson and Jen. So she went with Pacey to a party, and he was trying to, like, hit on someone else. Then Dawson came, and Katie Holmes thought she was going to go hang out with him, but then Jen came, and so he just left. He didn't even tell Katie Holmes he was leaving. An older guy immediately beelines it to her to get her super drunk. Pacey sees it and immediately goes over there, and she's very much out of it, and this guy's like, hey, like, she says she wants to be here, and then she's very drunk, and she's like, yeah, I want to be here.
She can't say yes, she's intoxicated.
Yeah, so then basically he just doesn't quit bugging the guy until the guy gets frustrated and leaves, basically. And then he saves her. But then Dawson ends up showing up at the last minute, so then Katie Holmes is just like, oh, Dawson, my hero. And then Pacey just looks over and gives a really, like, really face to that, but, like, he doesn't even care, really.
Okay, so it's just season 1, and it's just season 1 Pacey that sucks.
Well, he did that. He saved her in season 1. That was one of the first episodes. But yeah, you only get to see him when he's trying to act like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the drawback to Pacey. But he knows he's obnoxious. It's a defense mechanism. So anyway, back...
Pacey, no offense, don't be obnoxious. Because you seem deep down like I'm talking to him like he's a real person.
I know!
The show has not been a thing for, like, since the 90s.
Yeah, Joshua Jackson moved on to other projects.
Pacey, my darling. Deep down, you're a really great person. But please don't be obnoxious. Please. Please. It'll be so much easier to get through life if you're just not an insufferable asshole.
As he grows up, he gets more chill, I think.
Okay.
He's 15. Nobody was really decent.
I was insufferable when I was 15.
Yeah. Okay, so the hurricane. They end up staying at the teacher's place, and the brother is trying to hit on her, and Tamara is, like, kind of flirting with him, and it's very, like, they just had that fight about that gay teacher.
Yeah.
So she knows how jealous he gets, and he's 15.
She just
so
loves
he's
gay men. Something about that.
She actually says so much. So, like,
she's like, I used to live in New York. I love gays.
Yeah. So Pacey tells her that he's gay so that she won't leave him for his older brother. And then he ends up asking her out. And she's like, oh, but it wouldn't be like a real date. And he's like, what do you mean? Is it because I'm younger than you? Like, yeah, I'm 25. And I'm like, that's not going to be a problem for her. But but then she's like, no, I know that you're gay. So, and then he's like, oh, he told you? And she's like, no, I have good gaydar. I used to live in New York. I love gays. My best friends are gay. I love gays. And then
he's like, did you tell her I'm gay?
And then Pacey keeps denying it. And this immediately escalates to Doug, the cop, pulling out a gun on his baby brother and saying, tell her I'm not gay. Which I gotta say, does not make you seem very straight to me.
Does not make you seem like a rational person.
Yeah, it doesn't make you seem like this is just a joke between siblings. This seems like a very internalized something going on there, much deeper. Mm-hmm. That's not a normal reaction. Tamara looks terrified, like, what's happening here? And then Pacey says, don't worry, he does this all the time. And it is not clarified if that's a joke or not. In fact, after they're leaving, Doug really downplays it, and he's like, oh yeah, sorry about the gunplay earlier. And she's like, no, that was fine. And he's like, all right, we'll see you later. I'm going to go do more cop things. It's like, okay,
I'm going to go harass people.
Yeah, it was, yikes. So Tamara got to see some of his house life. And you know what happens? He circles back after Doug leaves, and they go inside and have more sex. So,
Oh wait, is this the scene where he's like, oh, like, how many times have you done it? She's like, well, there was that one time in high school.
Oh.
And then he's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, oh, I never said my high school. Ew.
Yeah, I think that actually was that time. Like, and he's just sitting on her bed while she's grading English papers. And it's so weird because, like, all his actions, like, especially in that scene, he looked like such a baby. Because he was, like, first he, like, had this insecure pout when she lists all these different guys. And then she says, like, oh, and the one in high school. I didn't say my high school. And she gives him, like, a knowing smile. And then he's looking down at his paper, but he has this really big smile to himself. Like, oh, mommy likes me. Oh. Aw, shucks. And it's just like, it's really, oh my gosh, I don't understand how you can not feel so bad for him. He's so sweet. He's off.
Like, I felt bad for him in that moment because I'm like, you're just
a little baby
getting groomed by an adult.
Like, it's just, and they're playing it so straight, but it's weird because you're supposed to watch this and feel like it's a fantasy, and I'm like, no, this is just like, this is how it goes. This is scary. So then, next episode, he asks her if they could go to another city together so that they can act like a real couple does, because he would like to hold his girlfriend's hand in public. And she's kind of like, she's never agrees straight out, but I think at this point, it's on, and they're gonna go 3 cities over. And maybe they'll move there and never return to Cape Side at this point. Who knows with this lady? She's really reckless. She doesn't think about things till, like, it's way too late to reconsider.
Yeah.
She can't, like, her tongue's down and starts just like, oh my god, I don't know what came over me.
Oh my goodness. I just was so swept off my feet.
So then, he checks the bathroom stalls, but he doesn't know that there's a guy sitting on top of the toilet smoking some weed. So,
oh no.
He's talking to Dawson about how he wants to go to Providence with his girlfriend, and then they're talking about it. And that starts a rumor going around that Pacey, a 15-year-old student, is sleeping with his 5th period English teacher, Miss Jacobs. It gets back to her, and then he goes to her house to apologize. And do you want to take this part, or
just so word gets around that this happens, and she gets super mad at him. She's like, you know, the one rule of our relationship was that you weren't to say a goddamn word, and look what you did. You went around and you bragged to your stupid friend Dawson, and now everybody else in school knows, all the students know, all the staff are gonna know, the superintendent's gonna know, and I've been called into court. Idiot. We're breaking up. And Pacey's like, oh, I don't get it. And then he goes to the courthouse where she is, like, in a hearing, and she's gonna be, like, you know, arrested for child grooming and sexual abuse, probably. And then Pacey storms in, and he's like, everybody stop, I have something to say. I was lying. I was not telling the truth when I said that I had a relationship with my teacher. I was just feeling so stupid and pathetic because I'm a lonely, horny 15-year-old boy, and she's a hot, sexy lady. So I told all my friends that we're dating, but I'm lying. I'm sorry. And then everybody's like, well, he said it, everybody. And they drop the case.
And the whole time, this woman, like, her lawyer kind of side-eyes her the whole time. So I believe
like,
the lawyers...
Oh my god, you slept with this student?
Yeah, I feel like...
Oh my god, my client's a monster.
Yeah, I feel like she's literally like, okay, they definitely had sex. Because the whole time Pacey's giving this speech, I swear to God, I've never seen a woman this love lost, and she's just gazing at him like he's a knight in shining armor for her, taking the fall for her crimes.
Oh my god.
It's wild.
And then the next time we see them together, they're like at her house, and Pacey's like, whew, that was a close one, huh? She's like, Pacey, I'm gonna leave the state.
I'm gonna
He's
flee.
like, well, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, we're done. We can't do this. And he's like, but I thought you loved me. Oh, I don't get it. She's like, silly rabbit. You were my plaything, my little toy. I think that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Cruel Intentions episode coming at some point.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Cruel Intentions is excellent, but so much of it aged horribly.
I feel like part of it aging poorly is why it's such a classic.
Yeah.
It's like...
Is why it's so iconic.
It's like, good gosh, if anyone tried to pull any of this today, this would not go over well. Yeah,
this was the 90s and
they just tossed the reel into the sun.
It's Buffy. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so she ends up leaving, and then season 2. So there's 13 episodes in the first season. So that was episode 6. Then we have 7 more episodes where it's over, but we still keep hearing like a few hushed tones like, oh my god, he slept with his teacher. Season 2 is when he meets Hotch's wife, and they have like this cute little flirtationship where they like love to hate each other kind of a thing. It's very adorable. She's very cute. Then
such a little peanut. I love her.
I like that I just assume that if you watch this, you know that I'm talking about Criminal Minds.
Yes.
I've been calling her Hotch's wife like that means anything.
And I'm like,
to
yeah,
anyone.
Hotch's wife.
That's true. So you should watch Criminal Minds, I guess.
Yeah. It's
Not
a garbage
Dawson's
show,
Creek.
but some of it's just there's something so iconic about it.
It's
So terrible.
Yeah, it's my ultimate guilty pleasure, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then Miss Jacobs has like some property left to sell before she can like officially never come back to Cape Side. So Pacey runs into her and he has this like blank stare when he sees her, and I was like, that looks like a trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. They end up having a final goodbye kiss.
Ugh.
And, like, it's so weird because she's like, we can't have a goodbye kiss. I don't think I can
we
handle
shouldn't.
that. And then he starts to leave, but then they both turn back, look at each other, and they collide. She, like, runs. He lifts her off the ground, people. That's how passionate this goodbye kiss was. This grown woman leapt into the arms of a child.
Of a baby.
A big
He has a test
baby.
tomorrow.
It was insane. And I remember when I was a kid, like, this is actually, now that we're talking about this, I remember the horrible impression this left on me because I watched it and I remember genuinely rooting for them. I was like, man, I hope they, like, make it. I want them to get married. They're just too in love. They have to be together because look how much they kiss like this.
Like, that's the problem with depicting these types of relationships in media. Like, you know, if you have a story to tell, you have a story to tell. But, like, this ain't it. Okay, so a little while ago, I fell down the Lifetime movie rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. But not, like, the 2000s, 2010s Lifetime movies. I'm talking, like, the 80s and 90s Lifetime
like
movies.
Mother May I Sleep with Danger kind of era.
Yeah, like, just ancient.
Yeah.
And, like, just something about, something about those is iconic. The
I love
current
them a
Lifetime
lot.
movies,
I've watched-
iconic for another reason.
Yeah, I love Lifetime.
It's
I'm a
it's
movie
something.
club member.
We
Proud of that.
We have to talk about more Lifetime movies. Check that off your bingo boards, folks. But I remember there was one that I watched that was about a teacher-student relationship, and the whole time they didn't try and make it hot, fun, and sexy. They were depicting it as it was. It was manipulative and emotionally abusive and scummy, and like how she was treated afterwards when it all came out because he was this beloved teacher. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you know, he resigned and I think went to prison in the movie because, you know, he was sexually abusing a student. But like, I remember her friends stopped talking to her. Her house was vandalized. Her parents were being harassed. Mm-hmm. She couldn't go to school. Like, it was terrible. It was awful.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. So that's how you talk about this. Like, this is a bad thing. This is not hot, fun, and sexy. This isn't Ezra, who's like a hot, fun, sexy teacher being like, ooh, my student, like, this is a crime.
Yeah.
Don't make this hot, fun, and sexy.
Yeah, especially because, like, then, like, impressionable teens like me are gonna watch
like
this
us
and
are
think
like,
that that's
oh,
what
I
it's
sure
gonna
hope
be.
my hot, sexy teacher
comes on to me, and then you grow up and you're like, oh god, this was terrible.
Yeah, it's gosh, so that was the grooming arc of Dawson's Creek. I'm only on season 2, but I don't recall any others, although it is funny because I was so burned by that. Later on, there was like a grown art teacher taking an interest in Katie Holmes, and she was just like encouraging her to succeed. And I was like,
okay.
I'm glad that this show is really homophobic because then but like I was saying, I'm glad this show is homophobic because I know for sure that this woman isn't gonna groom a girl student. That could never happen. So I was like, okay, I guess that's a plus.
Yeah.
This woman is just genuinely taking an interest in a promising young student.
As it should.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I think it's kind of become a habit of mine, like, whenever we have a video that discusses this, where I make it an after-school special. So I'm going to do that again. So, I think the last time we talked about this, I was talking mostly, like, to young girls. But I want to address young boys specifically this time. I remember a number of years ago, I saw this video from a man who was a survivor of sexual abuse from a teacher of his. And he was talking about how, and like, it started out like kind of edgy. He was like, I think rape and sexual abuse is inherently very funny. But then as he started talking, he's like, I have to look at it that way. Because if I say what happened to me was traumatizing and horrible, that reflects poorly on me, because when you're growing up as a boy, you're expected to behave in a certain way. You're expected to be interested in women and to be manly and to be hypersexual. So when I was being abused by my teacher, all of my friends were like, oh yeah, bro, that's so cool. And like high-fiving me and, you know, congratulating me when I was being abused. So the only way I can look at this is through a lens of comedy, like, that's so funny. And like, as he's describing this, he's holding back tears because this was just a horrible, ugly thing that happened to him. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you're a young man, especially, there's a lot of pressure from every aspect of your life to be a man. And unfortunately, being a man in this situation is to take it and enjoy it. And that's not fair to you. This is not an okay thing to happen to you. And I said it the last time, if this is something that's happened to you or happening to you, there is absolutely no shame in disclosing what happened, because there are people that care about you and your safety and your well-being, and you can get out of this and you can get out of it and eventually be kind of okay. So it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. And like, I think like, you know, it's really not up for somebody who didn't experience it to really say if it was an okay thing or a bad thing, because it didn't happen to you. So just try to, you know, it doesn't really matter if you feel like something wouldn't make you uncomfortable if it did make someone else uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So that's all I would add to that. Just, you know, we just gotta be more loving to each other.
Take care. It's been a rough couple of years, everybody. Just be nice to each other and be kind.
Yeah. I wish that I could bake a cake filled with rainbows and smiles.
You don't even go to the school.
And we'd all eat it. Be happy.
I wish we could just watch Dawson's Creek and not have to be face to face with the horrible reality of grooming in school.
So much, Bob can attest to this, that so much of the last few days has just been him trying to peacefully play Assassin's Creed 3 and me
with us in the back
and me yelling, oh come on lady,
come on,
leave him alone. He's got
15,
a game to
you're
win.
40 years old.
Just
What does
yelling.
he have to offer to you?
And then, like, constantly making a pause, like, no, see this is not okay what happened
this
here.
is garbage. And Bob's like, I'm just trying to play video games.
Sometimes he'll be like, oh, okay, thanks.
Very
Shush.
cool. And your cat's like, I'm a cat. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. I want to go outside again.
Yeah, he's gonna try.
Let me out.
Oh my gosh. I guess quick life update in case you didn't see on my Instagram or Discord. We got a cat.
Yay.
We found
kind
him.
of by accident.
Yeah, kind of by accident. And then, you know, his previous owners were just like, oh yeah, okay, keep him. Which I still don't know how I feel about, but like I'm glad that we love Geronimo.
New child. You have a new baby.
I love him to bits. Honestly, oh my gosh, being a cat mom feels so right for me. I'm like extra excited to get home from work so I could give him
For
his
your little baby.
his little meal, and then he'll meow, and I'll be like, stop whining.
Yeah.
You little silly
You look at him
cat.
and you're like, you little freeloader. You gotta pay rent around here.
Oh my
And then he doesn't because he's a cat.
He just, what I think, one thing I've noticed, I don't know if any other cat owners experience this. So sometimes, like, when he just, like, wants pets, he'll, like, slowly walk past and sort of, like, get his scent on me or whatever.
Yeah.
But then when he's hungry, he'll do it really fast, and I feel so used. He's
Yeah.
like, yep, come on, like you, give me food, I'm here.
Just like, they chirp. They're like, burp, burp.
Yeah, like,
Hungry, hungry. And you're like, I hear you. I'm going to feed you.
and he's like, look, you think I'm cute, whatever. What's it gonna take for you to get me some
Get a
food
couple of
over here?
crunchies in my bowl.
Yeah. But anyway, I like him a lot. We named him Geronimo.
We love
And
Geronimo.
He's a very sweet boy. I feel like when he got neutered or whatever, they clipped too much of his ear off.
Now he looks like he got in a fight.
He looks real scrappy, but it's, you know, he wears it well.
He's a big baby.
He's the biggest. On that note, if you want more life updates like this, you should join our Discord and talk to us
we
there.
post about our cats all the time.
Yeah, and you can listen to this wherever podcasts are available, and we can be in your car.
Yeah. Drive to work with us.
Please, we'll make the traffic feel like it's
Here's
gone.
a reminder. Put your seatbelts on and check your blind spots. Probably haven't done that in a while.
I like the idea they've been driving for an hour, and now it's like, oh man.
Geez, their seatbelts on. Thank goodness.
So, thank you guys for listening, and remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.